Happy Monday, beer lovers! Welcome back to the Bearded Beer vlog. Today we're diving deep into the wonderfully quirky personalities that make the beer world so colourful. From the obsessive collector to the laid-back social sipper, everyone fits into a category, or at least we like to think so. Today we'll explore behaviour, quirks, anecdotes, and yes, some humour along the way. Some of these personalities are familiar, some extreme, and some will make you laugh out loud. So grab your pint and settle in.
It's Monday, don't groan, don't fear. The Bearded Beer blog bloke is here. Talking nonsense, beard on show. Grab a brew and watch him go.
The first personality, the storyteller. These are the people that can turn a single pint into a multi-act saga. They'll describe the barley, the hops, the water source, the yeast, and somehow the farmer's cat. You think you're coming in for a casual chat, and suddenly you're deep in the history of brewing. One of my friends, he's a classic storyteller. He once gave a 15-minute lecture on a single Belgian ale. By the end, I knew the brewer's history, the founder's favourite breakfast cereal, and even a local legend about the pub where it was first served. That is a storyteller for you. Storytellers are exhausting at times. Yeah, but they're fascinating. They teach you to notice the subtle things that you might overlook. The colour, the foam, the aroma. Drinking a pint with a storyteller turns a simple experience into an event. Sometimes storytellers create unintentional pressure though. You sip your beer and you think, am I appreciating this enough? Am I tasting the complexity? Even a simple lager becomes a multi-sensory puzzle in their presence. Next up, the adventurer. These are the folk that will try anything once. Pumpkin ales in May, chili stouts, coffee and maple IPAs. And the stranger the ingredients, the better. I remember attending a tasting session where an adventurer insisted we try a beetroot infused beer. Half the room hesitated, the adventurer was ecstatic. Some people loved it, some people didn't, but the conversation it sparked, absolutely priceless. Adventurers push their boundaries. They make us ask questions and also question our assumptions, and sometimes even our stomachs. Even if you wouldn't drink it, you can't deny their energy. Some adventurers have been known to travel to tiny microbreweries or attend every festival in every town. They're explorers in the world of chaos, hops, and always chasing new experiences. Now the collector. These people treat beer bottles like rare coins. Their shelves are meticulously organised and sometimes intimidating. Collectors often never drink their stash. It's all about pride and curation. They know release years, secondary market values, and the brewer's personal history. Some could rival accountants with their spreadsheets. I met a collector once who had enough unopened bottles to supply a small bar for a month. They weren't drinking them. They were a combination of art, history, and investment. Collectors sometimes overlap with storytellers. They'll describe their beer's origin, age, and nuances, and then place it carefully back on a shelf. It's respect, obsession, and showmanship all in one. And then we have the devotee, loyal to a single brewery. They know every seasonal, every special batch, and every subtle nuance. I met a devotee who could tell me the exact date a seasonal IPA first hit the shelves, and the type of hop they used. I didn't ask, they just shared. The passion is infectious though. Even if you're not a beer expert, listen to a devotee. They can make you curious, engaged, and more appreciative of your pint. Devotees remind us that beer is culture, history, and community. The enthusiasm often spreads, inspiring others to explore beyond the menu. Next up, the critic. These people approach beer like scientists. Aroma, mouthfeel, colour, bitterness, malt profile. They analyse everything. Critics can be intimidating though, but they teach us to appreciate complexity. They notice subtle flavours, balance and texture that most of us overlook. Drinking with a critic turns every pint into a lesson. Critics can sometimes overcomplicate things. You might be enjoying a simple beer and suddenly you're thinking, am I detecting hints of oak and caramel? And maybe you are, or maybe you're just tasting beer. And then there's the freshness fanatic. They only drink beer that's as fresh as possible. Anything older than a week on tap? Forget it. Cans from last month? Not for them. I've seen freshness fanatics refuse perfectly good pints simply because they weren't tapped that day. Strict? Absolutely. Admirable? Also yes. Freshness fanatics remind us how timing affects flavour. They're proof that even a simple beer can be elevated when fresh. The trade master. Now they love strategy. They know the value of rare beers, the timing, and the leverage. Bottle swapping becomes a game, and somehow they always come out ahead. I watched a trade master swap a small local IPA for a limited Belgian stout. Both parties were happy, but the trade master walked away grinning. Strategy, negotiation, and passion all rolled into one. Now the event hopper is everywhere. Festivals, tap takeovers, brewery launches. If it's happening, they are there. They're documenting, they're tasting, and they're sharing. inspiring. Event hoppers sometimes travel hours for a single release. Their energy brings to life events, making even mundane tasting feel exciting. Watching an event hopper in action is like watching a masterclass in enthusiasm. The hobby brewer, they experiment at home. Sometimes the results are incredible, sometimes educational. They love talking about process, ingredients, and experimenting with flavours. A while back, one of my friends brewed a coffee chocolate IPA at home. Half the batch was perfect, the other half questionable. But the excitement of the creation, sharing, and tasting with friends, that's what matters. Hobby brewers remind us that beer is as much about creativity as it is about flavour. And finally, the social sipper. These people just drink for enjoyment, friendship, and conversation. They couldn't care less about hops, ABV, or barrel aging. They care about community. Social sippers remind us that beer is ultimately about people and enjoyment. Whether you're a storyteller, adventurer, collector, or critic, it's the social sippers who tie it all together. So before we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on all these personalities. Storytellers make us appreciate the history behind our beer. Adventurers push us out of our comfort zones. Collectors and devotees show passion and dedication. Critics and freshness fanatics elevate our standards. Trademasters and event hoppers bring strategy and energy, while hobby brewers and social sippers remind us that beer is creativity, community, and enjoyment. Now think about your local pub. You walk in for a pint and look around. Chances are you'll spot a storyteller sharing trivia with friends, an adventurer sampling the weirdest tap, or a social sipper laughing over a round with their mates. Maybe you even recognise yourself in one of these personalities. It's absolutely fascinating how beer can bring such diversity. 10 people could sit at the same table, all drinking the same beer, yet experience it in completely different ways. And that, I think, is what makes beer so endlessly enjoyable. There is room for everyone. I have noticed though that sometimes these personalities merge. You might have a storyteller adventurer hybrid or a collector hobby brewer combination. It's not just about labels, it's about passion, personality, and community. So next time you pour a pint, take a moment to appreciate not just the beer, but the people around you. Listen to the stories, celebrate the experiments, enjoy the debates, and above all, savour the friendships. Thank you for joining me on this wee journey through the quirky world of beer personalities. I hope you had fun, learned something new, and maybe even had a little laugh. Share your own stories and observations in the comments. I'd love to hear which personalities you come across the most. Of course, don't forget to subscribe, ding that little bell icon, and join me next time for another deep dive into beer, community, and everything else in between. Until then, cheers, happy sipping, and remember, every pint has a personality waiting to be discovered.